That is the sound of a plane as soon as I get out the car and operate my phone, flying behind the clouds, and the sirens are simultaneous as I stand out here on FERN and G. Hiding behind the clouds as I have documented. That's exactly what I said. The plane comes out of the blue. It's not audible until it gets right up here to FERN, and it flies right over FERN, where I just got out of the car. Immediately as I got out of the car, you hear the plane fly by. And those are the sirens in the background. That's P.O.C. right there. I'm at FERN and G. Fire truck. That is P.O.C. right there. That's a fire truck driving west on FERN and G. Again, this is upon my exiting the vehicle at 4:29 p.m. As soon as I exit the vehicle, the plane flies by. It was a white airplane, by the way. It was all white. And it came from the end of FERN, where I can see visibly, and flew behind the clouds west over the street the moment that I exited the car. So this is highly relevant with regard to what I'm documenting, with regard to what I am alleging against the state. It's audible once it gets to this point, but where is it flying from, and how come it's not audible prior to the point at which it flies over this street, and then once it flies over this street, it's no longer audible? Why is it a focal point right here? Number one. Number two, it is not a coincidence with regard to what I have documented, the fact that that airplane flies over the very moment I exit this car. The very moment I exit the car. And number three, as I have alleged with regard to the state's pattern of conduct and the use of sirens, it is also not a coincidence how the fire truck drives west directly next to this street where I'm standing out at the corner at FERN and G as I exit the car. Those are not coincidences. Those are not coincidences. Those are the patterns of conduct that I have identified. It's 4:30 p.m. That is the airplane that's not visible. It's flying behind the clouds. And that is the second in less than 2 minutes since I exited this car in order to capture the top of this vehicle, upon which there is being incessant noise being made. That is not a result of weightless leaves and stems. That's not a result of weightless leaves and stems. This is 4:31, and I am at FERN and G, and this is the pattern of conduct for the state, by the way. That's two airplanes flying directly over the street in less than 2 minutes since I exited the car. Okay, and the first one, as soon as I opened the door, flew over and hid behind the clouds in doing so. And immediately followed by that was a fire truck, which had to be very close in proximity for it to immediately sound its sirens not far from my location at this corner and driving west. Okay, so this is what I mean with regard to remaining in proximity to my location, the use of sirens, that is nonverbal communication, that circles the perimeter, that is representative of the state, which is the entity that is engaged in stalking and surveillance and monitoring. When the fire truck is driving by, they are engaged in the same crossing path. That is P.O.C. for when I am engaged in activity on an electronic communication device. That's what that is. In addition to any third party doing the same. And that is a third party right there, 6CUJ1888. It is 4:32 p.m. and that is a real life sample of the ongoing stalking, harassment, and the ceaseless search for electronic information. It is perpetuated through the use of communication devices, through the servitude of third parties who engage in remaining in relevant position to the targeted individual. That means crossing path at every time you hear something, every time they move, every time they engage in activity on the communication device, because it is a constant monitoring. So this is where third parties come in. The use of nonverbal communication through use of the sirens. The state is communicating. The state is also engaged in the pattern of conduct because they are driving rapidly with the sirens on, in addition to the flashing lights while they are outside and crossing path. Those are all of the elements that are instrumental to the ongoing search for electronic information that is sought out in a communication device. So that is what is at play, and all of this just happened as I just exited the car. All I did was step out of the car, and in less than 2 minutes, that's 2 airplanes and a fire truck. 2 airplanes and a fire truck in less than 2 minutes. And I am at the corner of FERN and G. It's December 4th, 2019 at 4:33 p.m. This is the sound of another airplane flying west over FERN. This is a third party driving north on the street while I'm in operation of a communication device. Third party walking by, third party coming to park. This is all based on their listening to me document them. So the concerted action now is engaging in crowding. That's what I call it crowding. So these artificially engineered clouds up here, they're hiding behind the clouds as they continue to fly south. Now this follows my systematic pictures that I took of them yesterday from the windshield, from the back windshield. And today they're flying behind the clouds so that I can't capture them in picture, but you can hear them flying over. And the fact that there are a series of third parties walking by randomly and driving by and parking nearby while I'm engaged in such documentation is not a coincidence. The state has also been engaged in trying to contradict, but it is no contradiction. You're dealing with the state stalking system, and so they are engaged in doing that which I have identified as P.O.C. while the planes are not seen flying by. That's not a contradiction of the pattern of conduct. That's not a contradiction at all. First of all, the planes remain present, and as has been documented. But not only that, like I said before, the pattern of conduct with regard to the theft of electronic information pre-existed the airplanes that occurred or that arrived December 19th when I was in Diamond Bar, California, and have not since left. Which is reflected in my documentation. And it was third parties, strangers that were engaged, that I documented, that were following and pursuing me, and always had a communication device on them when they were doing so. That is the pattern of conduct. And so the state's futile efforts to try to contradict that which they're listening to me document, it only shows that they are the criminals that I have alleged them to be. While third parties engage in very peculiar conduct, the car just sitting in the middle of the street while I'm down here at the opposite end, and as soon as I speak it, they move. This is invasion of privacy. The state stalking system, an aspect of it, is a vastly invasive invasion of privacy. They're all listening at the same time. They're all engaged in real-time reaction. They're like a bunch of roaches just scrambling around, listening to me and reacting to that which I speak out loud. That's exactly what they are. And above is the sound of a plane engine that's hovering above, right? But these cowards are hiding behind the clouds, all right? Because yesterday I took a plethora. I took pictures of them flying in succession over the back of this car. That's what I got. So today there's clouds over the sky with regard to fake rain on this car, with regard to incessant noise that's not being created by leaves. These leaves, let me drop a leaf. That's the leaf. That's not creating the noise inside of the car. Not the leaves or the stems. So I get out. As soon as I get out, we've got a fire truck. And we've got an airplane, and then we've got another airplane, and then we've got a whole bunch of third parties coming out of nowhere, walking and driving down this street. Those are third parties. That's called crossing path. That is P.O.C. That is pursuant to the ongoing search for electronic information. I am on a phone, and they are seeking to steal electronic information because it's pursuant to an ongoing monitoring. And that's it right there. That it is not rocket science. It's 4:42 p.m. And that is another plane flying. So this is just confirmation of that which I have already documented. It's December 4th, and they are indeed engaged in engaging in successive flights over this street. And it should also be noted, December 2nd, when I was walking down Holt, as they were flying in succession from Ontario Airport. And Ontario Airport is a ways down there, and then a ways east down Holt. And so I don't see how it is tenable whatsoever that they are coming from there, engaging in successful flights over here. And if they've already taken off from Ontario Airport, why are they again lowering down over a residential area and then taking off again toward their engine to increase in elevation? Not only that, They're doing it from FERN, whereas before they were doing it over 7-Eleven when I was on Vine and G. And not only that, last night there weren't planes flying over from an airplane. Those planes that were that I captured that migrated north last night when I was at Woodside Apartments were engaged in making U-turns in the sky. Were engaged in just floating above and flying west. In proximity to my location where I moved north, they moved north in order to follow me and keep me under surveillance while I was doing laundry inside of the Woodside Apartments complex. After hours before, I captured them flying behind this car through the rear windshield mirror, or the rear windshield window. The use of van, that's NFPC28. Those vans drive by a lot. They are engaged in the same P.O.C. There's vans and trucks, commercial trucks, trucks parked on streets. There's another plane that's flying over right now in reaction to my calling them cowards, because they were hiding behind the clouds, and now it's not hiding behind the clouds. But the reason why that is relevant is because their P.O.C. with regard to what I captured in walking to Starbucks on November 27th was their tendency to seek to try to evade being documented acting within the pattern of conduct. And they did that by appearing out of nowhere from behind the clouds, flying down. I took a picture of them, and then they flew back up behind the clouds. They came out of nowhere and then disappeared out of nowhere. So the state is fully capable of engaging in that, of creating fake clouds like I captured on December 2nd. One side of the atmosphere is sunny and the other side is full of clouds that they were in the process of still trying to cover the sky with, because they're trying to create an alternate universe, rather. Sorry. It's 4:45 p.m. and that was an all-white plane, again, flying west over this street while I am outside documenting the pattern of conduct, while third parties are engaged in parking on the same side of the street with their emergency flashes on. That's P.O.C. In relevant position. They don't have to be right next to me. They are in relevant position. This is the same thing that law enforcement does. That's why they're able to stay at the perimeter. At the opposite end of the street, there's a whole bunch of cars just circling around like a bunch of cockroaches. Like a bunch of cockroaches, because they're all engaged in the same monitoring conduct in concert with these airplanes that continue to fly over. It's 4:40. Okay, so that's the sound of water falling onto this car, and it is not raining outside. I am at FERN G. Just want to document that. That's pursuant to the ongoing monitoring of me engaged in activity on the communication device with regard to the airplanes that I recorded just today, serially flying in succession west over FERN, where I am parked at FERN G. The sound of water falling down on this car, that is based on the invasion of privacy, that is based on the monitoring, that is based on the continuous, ceaseless search for electronic information on a communication device. It is within the pattern of conduct for the state to engage in harassing conduct, making noise on this car, crossing path, driving past, that's what crossing path is, or patrolling third parties or the state directly in a fire truck, in a police vehicle, in an ambulance, or by aircraft, while I am engaged in activity on a communication device such as I am right now. And that is the sound of water when it is not raining outside. Just open the door, it's not raining, but it is raining on top of this car. Now that is in alignment, it is parallel to my documentation from November 27th. From November 25th, from December 2nd, with regard to the state's manipulation of that which are circumstances which they exploit, creating artificially engineered clouds, covering up that which is an otherwise sunny sky, creating a cloudy day, raining on my vehicle, which is a means of harassment. I've documented just today, but on other days with regard to their dropping and throwing items on my vehicle. This is third parties. This is the state as well. And when I'm naming the state, I mean it's directly or indirectly. It is the state. Anything that a third party is engaging in, because this is a system that is in place, they are working on behalf of the state. That is state action. And so that's what I mean by state. But what I'm saying with regard to items hitting the exterior of the vehicle, that is both water coming from the sky, that is the state engaged in that conduct. It is not raining. It is 5:58 p.m. and it is not raining outside. But what I am documenting is the sound of water falling onto this vehicle. And this is what I am documenting earlier pursuant to how this vehicle is targeted, because the targeted individual is inside of the car. So with regard to the directed sunlight into the windows, with regard to the directed headlights, or that which would appear to be so, that is the direction of light into the car pursuant to a ceaseless search for electronic information, which light is central to that unlawful search. With regard to harassment, throwing and dropping items on this vehicle, that's an example of it. Dropping water, it is not raining, that is pursuant to the same harassment. It's December 4th, 2019, 5:58 p.m.